So we're here with Nick Bratton. Nick, I was trying to decide if you are our first repeat guest. What do you think? I think he might be.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about that, everybody?
That's huge. You're a repeat guest, and this is not the last time. I think you're going to be, because you're interesting. You're a great speaker. Gio made you speak at the Immersive event this week.
Yeah, that's typical
of-
Gio. He surprised me with that. He actually told me ahead of time, but I thought he was kidding.
He learned his lesson. Gio is never kidding. Yep.
And he'll be back on because nerds rule the world, and we know that. So
Because who rules
his
the world?
ability. Nerds rule the world.
Nerds totally rule the world.
My deals live and die by Nick's pro formas.
Yeah, Nick is magical. So yeah,
I like this.
What did we talk about last time, Nick? Oh, we talked about hallways and pro formas.
Just layouts and efficiency.
Yeah, that's right. Efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about some of the macroeconomic trends that Nick's seeing, and some of the challenges and opportunities. Nick's going to do a SWOT analysis for us. No, a partial SWOT analysis.
I need a whiteboard.
I know, totally. And then, oh, you know what? You can whiteboard on Zoom now. It's kind of cool. There's literally like a whiteboard button at the bottom. We won't make you do that.
Thank you.
Can if you want.
He would have to. He would have to tap into his innermost brand Maderos to do a whiteboard session.
He could though, and he's well dressed and organized. And okay, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of creative deal structure terms, and maybe some watch out, some pitfalls, some tips. So, Nick, thanks for joining us. Do we want to give you a title? What do you go by besides super nerd?
Just Nick.
Just Nick. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a consultant. I work with Gio, and I don't really need a title. I'm here to help anyone with their flex co-working finance needs.
Okay, I love it. Okay. And kind of like Gio, you're a little bit of a unicorn in the space. We're all unicorns. It's a unicorn episode. I'll self-proclaim. Yeah, when it comes to finance and all the deals you've seen, and you also are probably a little like Gio in that you know enough to be dangerous about a lot of the aspects of the model at this point. So, okay.
Yeah, that can be a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay, wait, quick note. You were in Houston for the Immersive. Which was a GWA event. What was your favorite part of the event?
I just loved being, in the locations themselves. So we went to the Hines operates the square there at Texas Tower. It's a fantastic location. Then we went over to Fuse, and it's beautiful and it's open. It's a very different product than the Hines product. So it was cool to see both ends of the spectrum, the dense urban stuff, and then the kind of more comfortable, lots of outdoor indoor integration. It was just really fun. Then we went over and looked at the spaces, which is the one I remember working on. So it was just cool. It was fun seeing them all. I should do a better job of going out and seeing all the ones that are near me. Like I said earlier, it's only 3 hours away from me, so it's in a major metro. I should probably get over there more. But
well, it's good to have a forum to do that in with other interesting people in the industry.
Right.
Yep. How was Gio's keynote?
Great, as always. I like that he plans it the morning of. That's fine. When you see as much as Gio and everything's happening as fast as it does in this industry, that's about as early as you can plan ahead. So it was great.
Totally. Living in the moment. Okay.
Uncensored and in the moment.
Uncensored. Yeah. Okay, Nick, dive in.
And go.
Yes.
Well, I mean, one thing I've learned when I talk to people that are coming into the industry new is that these terms aren't as well defined for them as they are for us, because we see them all the time. Y'all did a good job on last week's podcast, so everybody should go back and listen to that one. But just real quick, the rewind. A traditional lease is one where the rent is established ahead of time, and then you're going to pay a fixed schedule throughout the course of the lease. Maybe your expenses that the building has are going to be passed through to the operator, and that can be slightly variable or tied to CPI or reconciled quarterly, but essentially you know what you're going to pay, and it has nothing to do with your performance. These non-traditional leases are tied to the performance of your center, or from, I guess I should not say an operator's center. That way we can keep the talk for both owners and operators.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So why that happens is because there's not as many people out signing these traditional leases. There's a lot of risk going on to the operator side. When there's really high vacancy in the market, that gives more power to the occupiers. So if an operator comes in and nobody else is signing a lease, they have a little more power, and they can say like, hey, instead of me signing up to build this out myself and then pay you this regular fixed amount, how about you take some of this risk too, and you help me with the build out, and you take some of the risk of the operation as well. But I mean, we can get into that in a little bit on what the benefits and the drawbacks of that for each side are. But I don't want to do just like a wall of talking, so just interrupt me whenever you want. But
no, I think that's
we
a
could
great
talk
start.
about.
And I love that
some
you're
of
level
the-
setting, because you're right. Some people just don't have context for, right, what does that look like? Landlords and operators. I mean, to your point, it's a fairly new structure. Regis does it. I assume WeWork's done it. Industrious does it. Common Desk does it. There are some, big brands that do these creative deals, but it's not super.
Yeah, and it
well
gets
known.
even more confusing when you get beyond that. What is traditional, what is non-traditional? Because when you get into the non-traditional, then it gets complicated. Like it's
Or
got
just
two
lots of
main categories,
variation.
and then it goes
Right.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the biggest one that you see most often is the management agreement. So that's where an operator is brought in to manage a space, and they charge a fee for that service. It's either going to be fixed based on like revenue or profit after expenses, or sometimes it's just a flat fee. So after you pay that fee out to the operator, then the owner is going to take everything that's left after expenses are paid, and that, I think, is the most common that I've seen, at least.
Well, or unless there's a performance split. Sometimes there's a profit share. Yeah.
Right. Well, then
aligned incentives.
Yeah, that's the next kind of category.
Okay.
So I have those
Jumping
broken
ahead.
up into
Sorry.
two. So
Yeah.
the next one is like a profit share group, and now those are a little more difficult from a lease admin perspective, because it's not fixed every time. You don't just ship off the remainder of revenue to the owner. You actually have to do a little bit of math, which can be a little daunting month in, month out.
Yeah.
Because you
There's
do
more
have to
record keeping, right? You got to have a good, somebody on the team to have great reporting. Got to have your crap shit together. Can we say? Do we say that on Flex Uncensored? You got to have.
It's uncensored. Yeah, it's in the name.
I can still remember
the way that those work are it's really more of a business partnership between the landlord and the operator. After the expenses are paid, then you're going to split whatever's left over. So the undistributed income, you'll split that with a predetermined amount that's determined by however the initial capital was paid. So generally you'll see the owner pay most of the upfront capital. So let's say for tranche one of the waterfall, you're going to pay 90% of that undistributed income to the landlord, and then 10% to the operator, until you get, once the landlord has received 80% of market rate or 90% of market rate, something that makes them feel a little more comfortable that they've gotten their preferred distribution because they paid all the big money up front. Now we're going to change that split to 70-30 or 50-50 for the remainder of however much revenue we get in. So if market rent is $1 million, once they've received 800,000, we'll start to split more evenly going forward. I think that's all I could think of for profit share. Yeah, I don't want to leave anything out, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part is, I guess, why don't you talk about why a landlord would want to do profit share? I mean, I think it's pretty simple.
It was all about the why,
right?
Yeah, let's hear Nick's perspective.
So one thing is, when these operators come into your office with this pro forma, they're selling to you a market premium. So they're saying that they can give you more money per month than you would get with a traditional deal. Obviously, there has to be a drawback here. Life isn't like that. So the drawback is that you have to pay more up front, but you can make more down the line. It's a good story from the operator perspective if they have the credentials to back it up. So if I go in and I want to open my first location, there's no landlord on earth who's going to give me that deal. I have to have another location that I can take you to. I have to have the financials to prove that I'm good at this. It would be great if I've done another management deal or profit share deal where a landlord that I already work with can be my testimonial. That would be fantastic. But these landlords, they're not making their money back, or restart. These owners aren't making their money back. They're not breaking even for 3, 4, or 5 years anyway. And so it's not as easy as just looking at the break even on that initial capital outlay. You have to, on the other side of the equation, you have to factor in the free rent that they were going to give you and the TI that they were going to give you. So it's kind of the free rent and TI on one side versus paying more up front and getting having that higher initial outlay.
Yeah.
So then you layer in your basic pro forma for whatever your typical operator makes, and you can kind of solve for whether this is a good deal or not. And so that's the math that a landlord is going to do. And so it's really important, I think, if the owner doesn't have experience in the industry, that's a partnership already. You can't just hand them this pro forma and say, hey man, if you like this, call me. And so that's what we're seeing with some of the big operators. So the Reguses of the world is it's sort of like, here's our pro forma, good luck. We're not helping you compare what you would do traditionally to what you're doing, what you would do if you sign up with us. Like it needs to be a hand-holding
Okay,
experience,
I love that point 100%. It's new, and I think Gio keeps asking the question, like, why? What does the landlord want to get out of it? What does the operator want to get out of it? And then helping, and it may be, sort of on the operator's plate to help the landlord understand what it looks like and feel comfortable, like the education process. So
well, most simply what they can get out of it. I'm sorry. What they can get out of it most simply is a higher return. That's what we're looking for.
Although there are other
business, right? So
reasons.
there is. So
not that Nick cares about, but there might be.
I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for the market as we move towards these sorts of deals that we've been trying to explain to a landlord for years now, that co-working in your building is an amenity. It's an amenity for your tenants and it's an amenity for your community. We're bringing more people into local restaurants and stuff and so on. So your development wants us, and it hasn't always been looked at that way. And this is a good opportunity for us to get in there, and they're going to see something that's more complicated and they're going to ask us to come in and explain it to them. And so you can not only explain, hey, I can make you more money, but also me being in your building is good. I can help your existing tenants and whatever developments are nearby. So there's lots of good opportunities outside of just the money. You're right. I agree with that. And
so I'm curious, you're going for the very sort of traditional and maybe pre-COVID argument around, hey, you want to think about this because you could get a higher rate of return doing this, partnership with me than you could get signing a market lease, and you could sell on the other benefits. So today, post-COVID, some of the deals that I see popping up and being announced are smaller locations in locations that I wouldn't typically assume is a home run for flexible office. So do you think some of the sort of 2023 pitch is we can get you occupancy, period, not necessarily a higher rate of return than a traditional lease? Like, is that that pitch shifting a little bit?
So when you're butting up against traditional lease with a management agreement offer, it's tough. Banks prefer the fixed income, so these
markets prefer certainty. Everybody wants like the lease.
Being an owner, you're really just in the financing business. Like you're strategically financing your building and leveraging that to expand your portfolio. Like operating the location is great, but you're looking at it from a valuation perspective, and traditionally co-working is not looked at. Every dollar is not the same. So they've been wary about, taking a management deal against a traditional deal. 10 times out of 10, you're going to lose that fight. But like you're pointing out, it's management deal versus nothing. So like
Sometimes,
if I
not
can
every
get
time,
you
but
more, well, yeah, like let's say I can get you at least market rent or near market
Right.
rent, when
Right.
your alternative is maybe you're going to be sitting on this thing, empty space for a while. There's times where maybe your underwriting is so strict that you just simply can't do it. And that's going to be a challenge that we're going to run into, where your bank, your financing isn't going to allow you to take a lease that's variable, or a lease that's, promising under market rent, which, to us, of course, we're never going to turn down revenue. Like, some revenue is better than no revenue, but there will be landlords out there who have terms that don't allow them to do that, which will be a frustrating thing to butt up against. But hey, there's a lot of buildings out there, so move on to the next.
Well, a big part of it right now is we're running into that even on traditional deals, right? Is everyone's doing risk remediation as much as possible, right? As they're looking at deals and really trying to figure out how do we limit our risk, right? How do we limit the exposure that we've got to TIs, free rent, other concessions, right? And so it's funny, it's counterintuitive in times that you would think landlords and banks would be eager to do deals because they're so limited. It's actually the opposite, is they're extra conservative on what they're deploying from a capital standpoint and what they're committing to, right? And so it's interesting because that's how they're looking at it. But this is a great example. I mean, my conversation with landlords a lot of times is, look, in certain markets, you're funding the entire build out anyways, right? If you go to Northern Virginia, where you're getting $100+ a square foot in TI plus 12 to 18 months of free rent, the landlord is basically putting the operator in business. And, at the end of the day, I'm like, why wouldn't you reap the upside?
Why didn't you take
even
the upside
if you're
on
putting,
that?
even if you're providing 60 to 75, which is very common in a lot of these markets, why would you not put another, bank on another $25 to $40 and control the operation, control how it's built out, control the experience, have actual financial liability from the standpoint of financial, fiduciary duty that the operator has to bring you opportunities. Because when you sign a lease with an operator, they have no reason to tell you, hey, the client's about to outgrow our space, you should talk to them about taking traditional space in the building, right? When they're your partner, when you technically own the operation or have some type of joint venture, then they've got that fiduciary duty to help out with that. So, I mean, I think, Nick, we've kind of talked about, briefly why landlords would want to do it. What are the biggest hurdles that you're seeing from, there's a pretty big span of management fees that are out there. We've seen everything from, 5% all the way to 18%, right? So you want to talk about how those things highly affect the return and kind of, how those models work.
Yeah. So if you build your location out to be 85-20, so 85% occupied, 25% profitable, right? And then you go out giving away 15% of that profit based on maybe a 8% revenue share, 10% revenue share. Like, suddenly that margin starts to get leaner and leaner and leaner and leaner and leaner, and to the point where you're making a couple $1,000s a month to operate this location. That's a lot of risk for not much upside. So from an operator perspective, that sort of deal needs to be big. And so I'm always a little wary when I see one of these deals come through for a really small location. So I start to wonder, like, is this just a dot on the map for you? Which, it's a benefit of these deals. When you don't have to put the capital out, you can grow a lot faster, which is, what we're seeing. But I got a little off track there. I got lost. But yeah, I mean, those are you named the range there, from 5% to 20%. Sometimes they'll break it up into, this is our corporate overhead fee, and this is the fee for managing the space. It doesn't matter. What matters is the percentage that you're paying to them. So yeah, it's all, you just put it into the numbers machine and see what comes out. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then it's time to move on, and it's not a good building for it.
Yeah, another thing we're seeing right now, and I know we talked about this in the first episode, but for those that didn't actually hear that one, the overall efficiency of the space is vital to the success, right? And so what's happening is some of these operators are coming saying, "Oh, we can build it out for $50 a foot." Well, the reality is all they're doing is making it less efficient, right? So how does efficiency affect the overall model?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go back and listen to the other podcast, but yeah, go look at y'all's catalog. No, I mean, efficiency is the key to your revenue line. So if you don't have enough inventory available to sell, it doesn't matter what else you do with your business, you're not going to make any money. I've seen 100% occupied locations that still don't make money, and I look at how much they're charging per desk, and it looks great, but they just don't have anything left to sell. That's the crux of the real estate business. When you're selling space and you run out of space, you're stuck. Yeah, you can get virtual office or whatever sort of mail service, but that's not going to get you there.
Yeah.
You need to build out a good space. You need to pay the right amount of money up front to make sure it's efficient and it looks right for whatever you need to charge to make it. So if you underwrite your location at the most expensive co-working seats in this major metro city, and then you build it out for $75 a foot, it's not going to happen. So you're in trouble. So you really need to tie your strategy with your execution, and a big part of that is making sure that it's good space. And to piggyback on one thing that you said, with $50 a foot build out, I mean, you can put cubicles and stuff that's never going to sell well. But also you need to be wary about reusing existing space. That's always a challenge whenever you're talking to either an owner who thinks that they don't have to spend money to build out a co-working location, or an operator who thinks they can take advantage of an existing layout. Like, corporate space and co-working space are two very different things. You need smaller offices, more efficient floor plans with thinner hallways and slidey doors instead of big swing doors that take half your office up. Like, there's so many variables that go into why classic corporate space may not work. And if it is what you're going to do, then you need to lower your expectations on how much you're going to be able to make, because there won't be enough inventory to have like for like revenue performance with a similar sized co-working location that was built to suit.
So I digitally got my hand slapped, Nick, because we're getting too deep into content that we're going to have on our webinar. So this is a really good
digital
teaser.
hand slap. I have my digital ruler.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is a great teaser into the webinar we're doing on June 9th, right? But I mean, I think that was kind of the goal, is to kind of get people thinking through some of this stuff and different viewpoints. And I know, we talked about it briefly on the episode with just you and I, Jamie, a couple weeks ago. And then, I think the goal is, there's so many different perspectives in view of this, depending on what seat you're sitting in. Are you in a landlord seat? Are you in the operator seat? Are you in a vendor seat even, right? I mean, some of these things affect vendors, right? So the ability for a technology vendor, a door vendor, a furniture vendor, these numbers all affect that entire dynamic and relationship, and then all the way through how it affects the banks and the overall portfolio of assets that a landlord has is huge. And so I think really there's so many levels we can take this to. And I mean, I think that's the exciting part, is they're constantly moving and shifting. It's the same conversation, but it looks different, right? And I think this is where we're kind of pivot into the economic times. I mean, Nick, you and I had 2 hours worth of calls today on deals that are acquisitions from a purchase standpoint of office buildings that we're looking to convert to co-working. And I mean, so much of it is tied into interest rates right now, right? I mean, what deals that made sense at 4.25 4 months ago don't make sense at 7.25, 8.25 that we're seeing out there. And so kind of talk to us about kind of what you're seeing from that standpoint, how you're modeling that, how you're thinking about that, right? Because obviously you've got to hope that we can purchase some of these things and refinance later down the road, or we've looked at buying stuff in cash. I mean, kind of talk about that side of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it works out to a line item on your P&L, right? So all you got to do is plug it in and see if your deal still works now that you're giving up a ton more in your interest payment. One way to look at it, just on a less P&L, less pro forma perspective, is thinking about who has access to capital and who doesn't, or at least cheap capital versus expensive capital. And if you're a big institutional owner, you have access to better lines of credit than I do as an owner of a 3-location co-working operation. So that is one area where these management agreements can start to make a little more sense. I was like, there's going to be no deal that gets done unless somebody with money can step up and pay. And so that's where the landlords can step in and they can get these deals done. And from that perspective, I would tell them, use that leverage. Know that so-and-so co-working company can't do a deal because they don't have money and you have money. That's a great leverage that you can use against them to push back on things like, what is the management fee, or what is the profit share structure, or what is the termination agreement? Like, I want to know if I can kick you out of my space if you suck at your job. So these are all, I think that's the way I look at it, is just, capital is king, and who has it right now and who doesn't. Used to be everybody has it, so we're all going out and getting deals like crazy, but it's going to be a little more choosy going forward.
So we're going to switch gears and go uncensored for a second. So where are you working from?
I am at my church right now.
Oh, I didn't know that's what was going on.
Oh, you
where do you normally work from?
No, yeah, I know where you're going with that. So I work out of my trailer next door to my house. I used to work in a spare bedroom, and then my mother-in-law moved in with us. So now it's
so
nice.
they bought a trailer and
out.
totally redid the trailer.
The mother-in-law moved in and Nick moved out. Wait, wow.
He got it. This kind of goes back to Jason Anderson. Kind of, you remember, he was buying RVs and Airbnb-ing them out, but Nick actually bought a trailer and
like
totally gutted it.
Like a little, I love it. It's perfect. I want one of
So
those.
he's like Bob the Builder nerd.
Yeah, it was a really good time rebuilding it. We didn't have to spend a lot of money. The construction quality on those is atrocious. Like, I'm no construction genius or whatever, but once you get in there and you realize, like, this was put together by, like, a child with like fake tools. It's a little scary that thing goes down the road going 80 miles an hour. But it's been very handy to have a spare bedroom next door that I didn't think I was ever going to need.
Totally.
So it's funny. He'll be like, "Hey, it's funny. He'll say, I got to go to my office," and you see, you hear the little footsteps in the door close, and then all of a sudden he logs in, and you see like the little window in the back, and then he basically fades everything out and blurs it, and I'm just like, oh, look at you.
Gotta keep it private.
It's perfect. You can go to the office. I mean, that really gets the neighborhood place to work. I guess you're still by yourself. It's not like going to a co-working space, but
well, yeah, and I mean, I didn't know that. Oh, Nick,
Nick's iPhone is joining our meeting.
Speaking of going uncensored.
Oh, you must have.
You
now
froze.
your background. It's so pretty there.
So that's what I was going to say, Nick. So I've worked from that. I know exactly where you are. So I've worked from that church a bunch pre-COVID.
This is church in the
And you
co-working
want to
space?
talk. So you want to talk about kind of what they've done with the lobby and everything around that. And so it's he logs in. Nick, are you back?
Yeah, sorry guys, battery ran out.
So
Oh,
no,
that
you're
was
fine.
that was
so
a
I was
smooth transition. I'm impressed. Nice work.
yeah. So
I was working
Nick,
on
I
it
was
before
talking
it
about.
died, so.
That's so funny. I was talking about how I've worked there from Watermark before, and how how they've got a lobby that's communal and allows for overall people to come work and have meetings, and they've got a coffee shop and everything else. I mean, just kind of switching gears, you kind of want to talk about kind of why you go up there and kind of what the feel is and vibe.
Oh, I mean, it's the build out quality is amazing. It's beautiful to be here, but yeah, there's tons of great open light. It's a great place to meet and talk with people, and I happen to be meeting some friends up here after this for non-work discussions. So it's a good place to do a call from, and they have really good coffee.
I totally was gonna ask. I'm like, I bet there's a good like cafe. Church.
They do, and they just rebuilt it.
Yeah. When I was a kid, church did not have amenities. There's no coffee.
This
Catholic
place qualifies
not
as
embrace
a
this
mega
kind of
church.
thing.
It's gigantic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
So this is where Nick's nerdness doesn't transfer well into describing a product in adjectives. So it's a big open area, but they've got these big leather couches that people can meet at and just have conversation. Then they've got high tops, they've got low top tables that people can meet with and look at computers together and just meet about all kinds of stuff. So it's really, really cool. And they created it just to be a communal place, right? That typically a church lobby isn't used during the day.
Yeah.
And so they actually have volunteers or staff members if they can't find volunteers that run the coffee shop, right? And so they come in during the day, and it allows for people to have a place to meet and feel welcome, right? And so that's kind of the reality. That's what we do in our co-working spaces when you have open collaborative areas. The goal is to have events so people come in and they look around, they're like, oh man, what is this? I'd love to know more about it. It's kind of from a mission-driven standpoint, kind of how that church looks at those things. And it's great because so the Wi-Fi typically works really well, and you've got a battery
parking
on your laptop. Oh, plenty of parking. So it's funny. I didn't know you were going to be working from up there, Nick. So
yeah, churches have historically played a big part in the community, and meeting on Sundays and maybe doing Wednesday night things, that's big and all. But if you can get people a place to hang out and talk to each other, do their devotionals, or just have a meeting, whatever it is that they want to do, get their coffee in the morning, whatever, you can be a bigger and bigger part of people's community. So it's effective in that way for sure.
So, I mean, I think that's a good transition to talk about how we're seeing landlords amenitize their lobbies, right? And pull people in as gathering places that pull people into the building, number one, or pull people down from the upper floors, right? And so the first floor is turned into kind of a communal area that, we're seeing more and more coffee shops that are external coffee shops. It's not like your typical deli, but they're coffee shops that have a network within the city that they're basically doing a deal with the landlord. And then we're also seeing more and more of those community-driven lobby areas or congregating areas that have conference facilities and stuff like that allows for the building to be able to capture the attention of these potential enterprise users, or even the co-working spaces that can play off of that because there's conference facility that they don't have to build out within their space. I mean, Jamie, you've seen a lot of co-working spaces. You talked to a lot of people about where they're trying to open. Are you seeing that become a bigger and bigger part as they look at locations?
You mean an amenitized lobby? Yeah, I think I was just thinking while you were talking, though, you seem to have a pretty strong fondness for the church lobby, and it you were like, and you can have these leather couches, you can sit and have your coffee and do your meeting. Like, these are real use cases that people are doing. And it sounds inviting. It sounds like was just like kind of well thought out, and it's nice and usable. I think the challenge we still see is like, there is a little like secret sauce to getting that right and to actually making it inviting and usable. So I think there's some risk in landlords feeling like there's a, magic wand and that's just going to happen. There's still work to be done to sort of make it inviting and make it a place where, Nick wants to meet his friends on a Friday. I love that. And I think that's the dream, right? That's the ideal, is that you're creating this really inviting space that people want to come into and use. But I still think it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's a big part, kind of going back to the partnership and the overall non-traditional use, is you're looking at, you need more than just to build out the space, right? You need to be able to create that overall feel that people want to be a part of, right? And so I think that's another way that these partnerships work out so well, is because the property manager, the security guard, are not capable of driving that community that is so vital to the success of these spaces.
100%.
Yeah.
So
there's a long list of reasons why, you shouldn't do this yourself. If it's not your business, don't get into it just because you think, hey, I can do that. And chief among them is something like layout and efficiency, that a co-working location, if you like the feel of one of their existing locations, they can replicate that in your building and make it that effective space. Just like, that's Watermark right there. If I wanted to go
amazing. I want to come now. Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube video, just put it up on the screen. Wow. It looks like a big lodge, like a hotel, or like a hotel lobby. That's great. And that's the coffee bar?
That's the coffee bar. And then they have that big chimney back there, but you can see the big leather couch. Which finger am I pointing? The big leather couches over here that people meet at. Yeah. And then
and those windows open up too.
Tops.
Wow.
Yeah. So those doors slide open, and there's fire pits out there and a little pond and all kinds of stuff. So it's super inviting.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is how office buildings need to look, right? Is to create that synergy and invitation in.
Yeah. Yep. Really inviting. Totally agree with you. And that's, anyway, it's partly design, but partly the people you attract. And that takes work, and that usually takes an operator. Anyway, okay. It's time for Nick to go meet his friends. Now that we can visualize where Nick's going to hang out with his friends. I love it. Yeah.
It was a pleasure being on again, guys. Thank you.
Yes. Until
of course. You helped us tease people. June 9th.
Totally. June 9th, we're going to do even a deeper dive into the creative deal structure world. A little bit more about what that looks like, some myths, some facts, things to think about if you're a landlord, things to think about if you're an operator, how to evaluate that partnership, a little bit more into the numbers, et cetera. So join us. everythingcoworking.com/flex. You have to save your spot. It's webinar style, so you gotta have a seat. Nick, maybe we'll make you join us on stage for that one too.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about termination agreements for an hour straight. Buckle up.
Buckle up. I know, we didn't even talk about termination agreements. Okay, we'll save that one. All right. Okay. Happy Friday. Have a good long weekend. Till next time, Nick.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Nick.